Hello, today is Monday, January 26th. Welcome to episode 549 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. I'm NSI Advisory Board member Lester Munson. I'm joined today by founder and executive director Jamil Jaffer and NSI senior fellow Matthew Hayden. We are going to talk about some changes inside Chinese military leadership. So in the last few days, General Zhang Youxia, who is the number 2 person on the Central Military Commission of China, was ousted. He's been accused of spying for the United States. He's been accused of corruption. The possibility of him sharing nuclear secrets with the U.S. has been mentioned. That seems highly implausible to me, at least. Some things folks should understand. The Central Military Commission is basically the high command of the Chinese military. General Zhang was appointed by Xi Jinping back in 2022. He's been seen as an ally of Xi Jinping. He was a combat veteran for China in its war with Vietnam back in the late 70s, one of the few remaining combat veterans in the Chinese military. He is also one of 5 generals who have been ousted from the 6-person military commission. There's only one other general left, plus Xi Jinping himself. So there's been a real hollowing out of the senior levels of the Chinese military. There are implications for this. A lot of analysts are saying this highly reduces the possibility that China could do anything antagonistic to Taiwan in the next year or two. Also, notably, Xi Jinping's term as chairman of the Chinese Communist Party is up in October of next year, 2027, so that makes it about 20 months away. He could be getting ready to make an appeal for a 4th term as the Chinese leader, unprecedented unless you go all the way back to Mao Zedong. So could be a real power grab here. There are some other possibilities. Jamil, you mentioned a couple of those possibilities. What are your thoughts here?
Well, look, I think one of the challenges here, Les, is that we don't know exactly why this is happening within the Chinese leadership. It could be that President Xi has just become highly paranoid about the people around him, about the contenders around him, who might be looking at leadership in the future. Obviously, it wouldn't be President General Zheng in particular because he's 75 years old. He's aged out largely from leadership. And so the likelihood that he'd be an actual potential contender for this next party Congress seems unlikely, but there are claims running around the media that that General Zheng was trying to conduct a coup. I'm not necessarily buying any of that noise, but what we are hearing is this idea that President Xi certainly sees fissures, fault lines in his own structure. And the question is it because he thinks people are undermining him? Is it because he's fearful of his own leadership, his ability to take a 4th term? His 3rd term was unprecedented. His 4th term will be even further unprecedented. So these are all the key questions. We don't really know what's going on, and we can't tell, is it paranoia? Is it something real? But either way, it suggests there are real problems in Chinese leadership. That means instability. That's bad for the global system and for the United States.
Matt, what do you think these developments imply for U.S. Geostrategic policy and our approach to our rivalry with China?
So we have to look at what we do know with a lot of these uncertain we don't have an answer that our folks feel comfortable with and saying exactly why each of these individual generals has been relieved of duty and leaving us with just one. That instability doesn't point backwards towards the recent exercises we saw. So we saw a significant series of exercises on Taiwan. We've also seen a significant series of exercises in partnership with Russia lately. So we're starting to see a challenge in a military scape that we can't just write off, no matter how instability presents itself across the CMMC. What we will say is that you start to see our strategies line up in a way where it's more protect the homeland, domestically focused. Critical infrastructure owner and operators know Volt Typhoon, Salt Typhoon, and several other elements of Chinese hacking and Chinese actions on our shores. So it's not as if we have a long way to go back before we see some of these challenges that China has presented to the United States domestically and abroad. So I would say most people have to kind of hold this narrative strong that China does want to take Taiwan, that they are equipped to do so, and we have to be prepared to both defend that and the homeland at 2 fronts.
So I think it's, go ahead, Jamil.
You know, it's worth noting that the National Defense Strategy came out this weekend also, and that also lays out our view on China. And there's a debate going on here within the Trump administration about how aggressive to be on China. Obviously, you see the president who wants to do deals with President Xi and get some economic outcomes out of this transactional relationship. At the same time, the National Defense Strategy is strong on the idea of the first island chain, defending those islands, not just Taiwan, but the other barrier islands that are the entrance to the Pacific Ocean. So the real question is, what's the U.S. policy on China? Are we in a position of trying to assert dominance, which the National Defense Strategy says no? Are we simply trying to create a balance of power, which is what the National Defense Strategy lays out? You know, are we trying to just do a deal, and will the president trade Taiwan for some sort of a larger economic deal? These are all open questions that come out of the NDS that was released this weekend as well.
Or another alternative, are we trying to inject ambiguity into our approach to China and see what kind of impact that has on Chinese policymakers? And is it creating chaos inside their system?
I mean, Les, if that's what we're trying to do, it isn't working. There's chaos happening, but I don't think it's because of our ambiguity. We've had an ambiguous policy towards China for the better part of 4 decades. It hasn't worked. They've gained power. They've gained influence globally. They're building up their blue water navy. They're building up their nuclear forces. If that's our strategy for China, it's a fail. Multiple presidents have tried it. President Trump should try something different. It ain't working.
Meanwhile, we are still the richest and most powerful country in the world. Unparalleled military dominance, capable of acting anywhere around the globe. No one else is able to do that. I humbly submit that the strategy may have worked.
Are we able to act anywhere around the globe? Because right now we want to act against Iran, but we've got to move a carrier from the South China Sea because we have a carrier in the Caribbean conducting drug strikes. I don't think that's quite ready to assert ourselves around the world. We can't fight, as we've tried to say, 2 parallel conflicts around the globe. We're not at that point yet. Now, the president has doubled down on military spending. I don't know that we're there right now, Les. It's nice to say, not sure it's true.
Well, you know, we could always have more, I suppose, and $1.5 trillion defense budget does seem like quite an ask from the president. All right, I think one other thing to keep in mind here is there's not only military chaos, a little bit of chaos in China, there's also economic chaos. Economic growth has, at least under Chinese standards, has been stagnant. They're facing real issues there. They have a population bust that is becoming more severe every year. There are real challenges inside the Chinese system, and you're not hearing a lot of people say anymore, that the Chinese system is much better than the U.S. system, which we were kind of hearing back during the first Trump administration. So I think it's yet another piece of evidence here that the world may not be as we assume every single time. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks always to Kelly Crowley, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for the help in producing today's episode. Join us on Wednesday, January 28th, for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. We're on YouTube. Check out our channel there for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.